Good afternoon, Gills fans, and welcome back to Gills in the Blood TV. Finally, it has been released. Gillingham Football Club have just announced their retain release list for this summer, seemingly being the only club left in the country to not do it. It has finally been announced and published online, so let's have a look at it straight away. We'll go through those that have been offered deals first, give my thoughts. I will then go through those that have been released, and then finally those that have been transfer listed but are still under contract. Greg Cundall, I will start there. He has been offered a new deal. Obviously, information regarding what these players have been offered has not been disclosed. For me, a little bit surprising. I understand that he's young and may have potential, but with Nolan Bow doing very well last year for the development side, I'm not really sure where Greg Cundall fits in, to be honest. I'm not sure whether he's an out-and-out striker or number 10 or just don't know. And he's been here long enough now to think that he should really have been doing more in terms of getting in the first team more regularly. But he has been offered a deal. Personally, I would have let him go. Next is Elliot List. Now, I did a piece a few weeks ago and I said I would have let him go at the time. Having spoke to others and thought about it a little bit more, I've come round to the idea of perhaps giving him a year. Again, we don't know what it is, but I'm not disappointed that Elliot List has been offered a contract. But I will say that this is a massive season for him, and I think he's really going to have to push on and try and get more regular game time if he wants to progress further. Next is Josh Parker, who arrived to no fanfare at all in January. Was ridiculed by plenty of Gillingham fans because of his appearance on a cooking show rather than his goals in England. But I thought he'd done very well. Wanted to put himself about, he worked hard, he ran the channels, he's got good pace, scored a couple of goals, was involved in others. So yeah, quite happy that Josh Parker's been offered new terms with us. I think that's a great step by the club. And finally, Cody McDonald has been offered a contract. We don't know what it is. We don't know whether he's going to accept it. But the club, I think, have made the correct decision in offering him new terms. 12 goals last season in a poor side, in a side that didn't really play to his strengths, that was low on confidence and low on momentum. So I think it's a great idea to try and keep him at the football club. Obviously, we don't know what he's been offered and whether he will accept it, but he has been offered it, and fingers crossed that he signs on the dotted line and we have him here next season. So that is the players that have been offered new deals, and we now move on to those that have been released. Right, let's get one out of the way. Obviously, we've all seen it coming, unfortunately, for reasons that are not football related, and that's Rory Donnelly. There's been a lot of stuff about him in the press in recent weeks. Going back to just before the final day of the season, he will not be retained, and that is where I will leave that. In terms of footballing ability, he scored 12 goals for us in just over 60 games, but obviously the decision has been taken based on other matters, so that is that done. I'm not going to say any more. Mitchell Dickinson released. He announced that on Twitter a couple of days ago. To be honest, I'm not totally surprised. The only thing that makes it a little odd is the fact that AD Pennock heaped massive praise on him after the Bury away performance. But in terms of Mitchell, he's been here a few years now. He's been in and around the first team squad for 2 years, and he's never really progressed to getting regular game time for one reason or another. Whether that's his fault or not is another matter entirely. But I just think it might be best for him to move on. He might have to drop down a level or two to get games and then build his way up. But I think with Finn O'Mara signing a professional contract, he might be the one that then steps into maybe the final centre-half position, the fifth or whatever it is, depending on how many we sign. So I'm not too disappointed or surprised that Mitchell Dickinson's gone. As is the next one, Chris Hurd, massively overweight, massively unfit, massively injury prone, didn't win a game that he started except for Scunthorpe, and we all know that was nothing to do with him because he was brought off injured at half time when we were 2-0 down and we won 3-2, so no dramas there for me. Ryan Jackson was one that I wasn't sure about. I kept toying with the idea of maybe giving him a year, but he's been very injury prone. He seems to have gone backwards as a right back in my eyes. Seemed to lose all the confidence that he was playing with when he first joined for that sort of 3/4 of 2015-16 when he was getting on the overlap and getting to the byline. And we saw bits of it at the start of last season at home to Bury, scored one, set up one. I think he provided the assist for Rory Donnelly against Swindon. That was in August as well. But he then just seemed to lose all confidence and was just happy to stay behind the ball all the time. And play safe, square and backwards passes, coupled with that he didn't look great defensively and then got moved to almost to be an emergency centre-half, says to me that he's probably right that Ryan Jackson moves on. Ollie Muldoon got hung out to dry a little bit by Adrian Pennock. I think we see him on trial as a right back and a centre midfielder, and I actually went to that game and he looked all right. Then Adi come out and said he wasn't for this season, just gone. He was going to be for someone to come in the summer. We then got him in. And then despite playing him as a right back and a centre midfielder, we played him at left wing back against Bolton and he got absolutely annihilated out there. And then Adi tried to say that he'd had a good game, which was absolutely laughable, but I'm not sure it was Ollie's fault. But you can understand why he's been released, and let's just hope that he goes somewhere and finds a home where he can play regular football matches, because he's still young. Henry Newcombe, not got really a lot to say. The only surprising thing is that he only signed his first professional contract last year, but obviously with 3 senior goalkeepers on the books, it's no great shakes, to be honest. Emmanuel Osadebe, I will say how I feel about this man now. I cannot stand him. His character is absolutely appalling. His attitude is absolutely shocking. He has some potential to be a half-decent Football League player, perhaps. But he has the ego of someone who has won World Cups and Ballon d'Ors and Champions Leagues, and he has achieved absolutely nothing in the game. People can tell me on here that he runs a lot and he's got good energy and he brings this and that to the team. Great. Usain Bolt runs, but you wouldn't play him centre midfield. And for me, the limited ability and the fact that his attitude is absolutely appalling I think is absolutely the right decision. And if he was the poison or whatever that Adi alluded to, then see you later, son. Don't ever come back. And the last one, right, little rant. Zesh Raymond, slightly disappointed, I won't lie. People can say that he was part of a very poor defence last season and we need to start afresh. But my worry is that we're after experience and leadership and know-how, and is it right under our nose and we're just letting it walk away? I thought we'd done all right in a poor side when he come on board. You've got to remember he's not played in England for a few years. He was chucked in at the deep end, so to speak. He went straight into the side at home to Southend. Looked very impressive and we won the game. We won 3 out of the first 4 that he played. I thought he was very impressive last day of the season when nerves were shot and tension was high at Northampton. He seemed to keep a calm head. But he's been released, slightly disappointed. Like I say, I thought he might have been worth a year, but he's gone and we have to move on and hope that Adi and Peter Taylor have got other targets. So that is my thoughts on those that have been released, and the final bit will be those that have been transfer listed. Right, 2 people that are under contract and have been put up for sale. First one, Stuart Nelson, England's #1 club hero. Winner of Player of the Year, the Championship winning side in League 2. Happy is probably the wrong word, but I can understand why Nelson's been transfer listed. We've obviously signed Tom Ash-Holy in January on a 2.5-year deal, so there's obviously a view there to make him maybe the longer term #1 or to compete with Thomas Hadler, who will be back to full fitness come pre-season. So at Stuart Nelson's age, he probably wants to be playing first team football regularly rather than sitting warming the bench. And if he's to go out elsewhere and get regular game times, I do not think any Gillingham supporter will begrudge him that. I am slightly sad that his time at the club may be coming to an end, but we have to remember that a couple of seasons ago he was made available for transfer by Justin Edinburgh and he proved everyone wrong, got himself back into the side between the sticks as the #1. It may happen again. He was very up and down last season, let's be honest. I think he'd be big enough to admit that. He was either very good or really poor. But he has been transfer listed. I'm sure he'll get offers. If it's not in League 1, I'm sure plenty of League 2 teams will look at him. So yeah, sad to see him go, but can understand why, and wouldn't begrudge him moving on to get first team football as he approaches the twilight of his career. Second one, Billy Knott. Not sure transfer listing him is the right idea, but again, I can see the sense in it. Obviously, there's all this talk that he's never been played in his correct position and we should never have let him go in January. But we have to remember, he scored 1 goal for Gillingham and went to Lincoln in the conference. Granted, they were playing well, so you're not going to change too many things in terms of that side. But he didn't start every game there in the conference. So will it be as big a loss as people are trying to make out? I'm not so sure. He might be on a fair wage, so if it frees up wages to bring in a couple of others of the right sort of position and character, etc., then it might turn out to be a blessing in disguise. Obviously, on the face of it, it's slightly disappointing. I don't think he's been played in the correct position, but if he was promised by Justin Edinburgh that he was going to come in and play in Bradley Dack's position, and then we didn't sell Bradley Dack, then that's not Billy Knott's fault, of course, but that's not Adrian Pennock or Peter Taylor's fault either. So for me, it's one we'll have to wait and see. It's slightly odd in terms of the fact that he came with a decent reputation, but he did only score 1 goal. Couldn't get in a Lincoln side all the time in the conference, so we'll have to wait and see. But that sums it up. That is the retained list done and dusted. Now we obviously turn our attention to potential targets. I will try and get the final part out of my series up later today or tomorrow, which will be looking at attackers. But thanks for watching. Please leave a comment in the box below. Do all the usual. You know that, I don't have to tell you. Thank you very much. And until next time, up the Gills.